Next question is, when are paddles going to come to mere mortal levels?
That's a tough question, you know. And in some sense, you know, I understand that, and I'm sorry about that. The pricing, it does seem a little steep. You know, from our perspective on our end, you know, we're not getting rich. We're doing the best we can. We're small manufacturers in a niche market, and that doesn't lend itself to high production techniques. The materials we work with are expensive. The tooling is expensive, and the technology changes rapidly. So, yeah, I can hear you. It seems like it's expensive. You know, we are working on less expensive paddles, but what you're not going to get for $100, you're not going to get a $300 paddle that we're building now. It's just the way it is. The material is carbon fiber is expensive, and everything associated with it is expensive. People assume that because you have a mold, that it's really easy and fast to make these things. Well, it's faster than forging something out of metal, but it's still hand work. There's still skilled labor having to put all the parts in there and get the resin into the mixture. Long story short, I bet you prices will go down on the paddles when the sport increases in numbers and sales increase in numbers to a point that can support somewhat lower margins.
Are you finding that, what's the difference between wood paddle and carbon paddle in terms of feel or durability or performance or any of that?
Honestly, I haven't paddled with a wood stand-up paddle. But as far as, you know, well, you know, I came from that background of this wood versus synthetic materials, and we have to kind of work within the rules at in outright. You know, wood is actually good. Like a lot of guys prefer, even when they can use full carbon paddles for racing one-mans, some of my guys prefer the wood shaft because it seems to absorb some shock. It seems easier on their body. You know, generally speaking, to get the same strength, you're gonna have a wood paddle is gonna have to weigh more than a carbon fiber paddle. Wood, I don't think is any more durable than carbon fiber. It's easier to patch because most of us are more familiar with sanding and varnishing than we are with doing like ding repair on a carbon fiber paddle. I personally, obviously, I make composite paddles. Given a choice, I work in composites, and I feel I can execute better design-wise. I can make the paddles thinner. You know, like I say, I come from that outrigger background. So if you look at my paddles, my blades are really thin. I've actually fattened my blades up for this because they were telling me they were screwing up the boards and stuff. So I've had to make my edges a little thicker. Yeah. But a thinner paddle goes into the water cleaner. It's going to create less bubble as it goes in, and therefore have more traction. Because you know the bubbles, you ever try to swim in the whitewash after you wipe out? Hard to swim, not like swimming inside the pool, right? So that's kind of the same idea the paddle is going through. So I like them thin. I can't do that with wood. It doesn't have the structural strength. The other thing is, I prefer to have non-absorbent materials in my water sports stuff. So this is good. We use a closed cell foam, so I could actually drill holes in this paddle. It wouldn't break and it wouldn't absorb water. It'd be perfectly fine. Does that answer your question? You know, maybe I'm biased too. You know, I spent a long time as a woodworker, and I still do woodwork. And I only started composite work in 1999, really. So I've only been doing that composites for 8 years. You know, it's new.
I noticed that you do have a super sharp edge. Does that make it perform better?
Yeah, it makes them paddle better. It just makes it quieter. A good paddle, I believe, should be quiet. I can't stand that noise, you know, when you're paddling on flatter conditions. When you hear that, that's all that paddle creating all that air, and it just, I'm not exactly sure what it's doing, but it just drives me nuts. You know, I want my paddle just to go in just like.
So, you know, in stand-up, we have this, when you whack the side of your board, especially on, if it's the gel coat's kind of thick, you chip.
Yeah.
So we'll put tape around it or so on. Are you finding that you can still put tape on that and have no problem, or what?
Depends how big. As you increase the thickness of the edge, you're going to have a higher probability of it making plunking noises. Now, if you're in the surf, that doesn't make a difference because, you know, the water's still churned up. It doesn't bug me out there because I can't hear it because there's so much, the water's so rough anyway. And I think that's mainly where the chipping and stuff's occurring, is in the surf, where you get flailed around and stuff, right? That, you know, that's, like I said, this is an infant technology right now. We're going to develop things. Those are things we're working on. You know, I've built carbon fiber dive fins, you know, spearfishing fins, and I've used to put this rubber stuff on it. It seemed to work to keep it from chipping. You know, people could glue that stuff on their paddles, and that would work. The end technology where we'll probably end up is having rubberized trim as an integral part of the paddle. It's easy idea to say we're going to do. Execution is a little bit difficult, because we're going to have to try and figure out how to make a joint in a piece that's that big, and the carbon doesn't like to make real sharp corners. So we're working on it, but I don't have the answer right now.
So you don't know, like, ETA next 6 months?
No.
Or yeah.
No, this one's gonna be a toughie. It's you know, it's a little trickier than, and you know, right now too, you know, we're figuring out just basic things on how wide should the paddle be. I think we're pretty good now. I think most of the products are kind of getting in the area, but it's probably still going to go through a little bit of refinement. We'll work on it, just like the two-piece paddle is things that obviously that people want to work on. I'm not unique in that. I think all the manufacturers we're faced with the same problems. We're hearing what people are saying, and you know, we're trying, but we're just not there yet.
Are you finding that it's beneficial to have a quiver of paddles, like you have a quiver of boards?
Oh yeah, it should have like 40, 50 paddles, all Kialoas. That'd be my ideal situation. Well, you know, just from the standpoint of, yes, I have the luxury of having a quiver of paddles because I make paddles for a living. You know, that's a budgetary question, you know. If you have the excess money, yes, you should have maybe a small one, maybe a big one. That being said, though, a lot of my racers, especially one-man guys, we used to do the quiver thing, and some like it, but a lot of guys just paddle with the same paddle. They get the feel for it, and it's just like your favorite dog, man. I mean, you know, it's just you guys know each other and stuff. And so there's two schools of thought on that. I definitely think a surfer should have at least 2 stand-up paddles, because there's a chance of breaking it. I mean, surf is so weather permitting, you know. I mean, that great perfect day, the last thing in the world you want to do is have that day stop because you broke your paddle. So if that's important to you, I think maybe having a backup is a good deal.